All right, let's just jump right in. What if one of the oldest practices in human history held a key to protecting our brains from one of today's biggest threats? That's what we're digging into today, this really fascinating link between meditation and the aging brain. We're going to look at some promising clues, but also the big gaps in the research, and then make the case for the one study that could finally give us a real solid answer.
I mean, think about it for a second. Could a practice that's literally thousands of years old be one of our best shots against cognitive decline? It's a massive question, right? And it sits right at this intersection of public health and, our own personal wellness. And honestly, the stakes could not be higher.
Okay, so to really get this, we first have to understand just how big this challenge is. Alzheimer's disease, it's the most common cause of dementia. And its number one risk factor? It's something none of us can escape, just getting older. So as the whole world's population ages, finding ways to prevent this stuff, especially ways that are easy to access, is becoming, incredibly urgent.
And this is where the power of prevention just blows your mind. Get this, if we could delay the start of Alzheimer's by just 1 year, just one, we could prevent an estimated 9 million cases by 2050. 9 million! That number, that potential, is exactly why the hunt for non-drug options, things like meditation, has become such a huge priority for scientists.
So, okay, what are the clues that point to meditation as a real contender here? Let's start with clue number 1, its direct impact on how our minds actually work. How we think, focus, and remember stuff.
And what's so cool here is just how wide-ranging the effects seem to be. We're not talking about just one little thing. Study after study suggests meditation can boost a whole bunch of mental functions, like our attention span, our memory, even our ability to, switch from one task to another. And here's the kicker. Those are the exact skills that tend to get rusty as we age.
And look, this isn't just a theory. A recent study actually put this to the test. They used this special tool, a set of cognitive tests that's specifically designed to pick up on the earliest possible signs of Alzheimer's-related decline. And what happened? After only 8 weeks, the group doing mindfulness training showed real, significant improvement on those tests.
So you gotta ask, what was actually happening inside their brains? Well, those better test scores weren't just a fluke. They were directly tied to stronger connections in a brain system called the default mode network. Now, this is a super important detail. The default mode network, that's the part of your brain that's buzzing when you're just daydreaming or letting your mind wander. And get this, it's one of the very first parts of the brain to get hit by Alzheimer's.
Okay, so let's move on to our next clue, because the story gets even more interesting. The benefits might go deeper than just brain networks. We're talking about going all the way down to the cellular level.
Right, so we all know chronic stress feels bad, but it's not just in your head. It actually kicks off a physical chain reaction in your body. It ramps up something called oxidative stress. You can think of it like rust on your cells. And that rust directly damages our DNA and basically hits the fast-forward button on aging.
But, and this is where it gets really wild, some research points to a way to fight back. In one study, a 12-week yoga and meditation program led to some pretty incredible changes. You see, cortisol, the big stress hormone, that went down. The cellular rust, oxidative stress, that went down too. But at the same time, the body's own defense systems, its antioxidants, went up. And so did something called telomerase, which is this amazing enzyme that protects our DNA. So in plain English, the body was literally showing signs of slowing down the aging process at a cellular level. Wow.
So, okay, we've got clues from brain tests, we've got clues from brain scans, we've even got clues from our cells. The case for meditation is looking pretty solid, right? But, and this is a big but, like in any good investigation, you have to look at the holes in the story. We have to talk about the gaps.
And here's the problem. As exciting as all these findings are, the studies themselves have some pretty big limitations. For one, they're usually really short, like a few weeks long. The groups are often tiny, and a lot of the time, the people in them are already healthy volunteers, which isn't really a good snapshot of the general population, is it? All that makes it really tough to say, okay, this will work for everybody.
And hey, don't just take our word for it. The scientists doing this research are super clear about this. As this review from a few years back puts it, the conclusions we can draw right now are limited because of these problems with how the studies are designed. So yeah, the evidence is promising, for sure, but you could say it's built on kind of shaky ground. We need something more solid.
So, if what we have now is just a pile of really promising but incomplete clues, what's the solution?
What would it actually take to get a final, definitive answer? What does the gold standard study even look like?
Well, the answer is something called a longitudinal study. And basically, that just means we need a study that's huge, that includes all kinds of different people, not just the super healthy ones, and most importantly, follows them for a really long time. We're talking years, even decades, tracking their habits and their brain health along the way.
See, a study like that big, that long, is really the only way to get past the problems with all the small short-term research we have now. It's how we finally move from just having promising clues to having cold, hard evidence. And that's the kind of data you can actually use to give people real advice, to create public health guidance that could make a difference.
So when you step back and look at it all the evidence is pointing in the same direction. The cognitive tests, the brain scans, the stuff happening in our cells, it all suggests that meditation could be this incredibly powerful and really low-cost tool to help protect our brains as we get older. We know how huge the threat of dementia is, so the real question is, isn't it finally time we found a definitive answer?